Hey guys, how's it going? I use that saying like every time I start a thing. Maybe I need a different one. Anyway, we're looking at a series at the moment called Are You Okay? We've seen a story about Elijah who goes through a serious, difficult time in his life, and he's really struggling, and he goes through his mental health crisis, and God brings him out of that by doing all these things, and we kind of looked at that over the past 2 weeks. But I wanted to scale out a little bit, okay? Because the story of Elijah in this point is a story of a person who is struggling with extreme emotion, and God is involved and active there. I think when we struggle with emotion, we don't always think about or remember or consider that God is active and involved. We often don't bring God into the situation that we are experiencing. Now, if I'm real, I'm not a super emotional person. Some people are very emotional, some people aren't. That's not me. I'm personally not super emotional. But there was one moment in my life, kind of when I was not much older than you guys. I was probably 16 or so. And what happened was I went through a kind of situation that really upset me. I was proper shaken up by it. And one of the things was I was just kind of around the house and clearly was showing that I was experiencing this kind of emotion. And my dad sat me down and kind of asked me what was going on, and I kind of shared with him, and as I shared, I began to tear up. And then eventually it was like a full-on cry. But what's interesting is my dad didn't say much. But what he also did is he ended up tearing up as well. He actually ended up crying as well. See, in that situation, my dad was so involved in what I was experiencing that he began to experience some of that as well. And I think that's a little bit like the way that God sees us. I think God is so involved and so invested in you and in your life. He cares so much about how you are and about what's going on, that I think that when things upset you, I think that God is also upset as well. Maybe in a different kind of way, but he cares so much about you that it says that Jesus sympathizes with our weaknesses. He sympathizes with our moments where we're feeling weak, where we're feeling like we're struggling with stuff. He sympathizes with that because he cares for us. I think that's really interesting. And so one of the things that I think that we should do when we're struggling is to involve God in what's going on. Is to bring him in. It's actually to process how we're feeling, not simply by ignoring it by playing video games or by ignoring it by watching a film, but actually bring Jesus into the situation in prayer and in worship. And in the Psalms, which is a big book in the middle of the Bible, this book is essentially a collection of prayers and worship songs, but they're all about how the people writing these are dealing with their emotions. Sometimes they're like, yeah, this is great, everything's great, God, you're amazing. And then other times they're like, God, this is the worst situation. I'm struggling so much here, I need help. And then at other times they're even like, God, what are you doing? This is the what? There's a full range of human emotions that is included in the Psalms. And what's happening is people are involving God in how they're feeling. They're involving God in how they're feeling. And I think if we begin to involve God in how we're feeling, that can affect us, that can change us, that can help us. Because we can begin to remember certain things about who God is. We can remember that God's good. Even if we're struggling with serious situations, God's still good. Even, if these things are kind of falling apart, no, God's still good. God still loves us. And as we kind of involve him in how we're feeling, I think that he can begin to help and begin to input into that situation. So this has kind of been a bit of a simpler one, but I guess I want to ask you, when you experience extreme emotion, whether that's real deep sadness or proper anxiety or serious anger or whatever it might be, how can you involve God in that situation? How can you not just avoid it or escape it or kind of run away from it, but how can you actually process what you're feeling with God? And if you don't know the answer to that question, that's great, because I want you to chat about it in your groups. So crack on and do that. But like I said, it's great to kind of be on your screen, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.